Abandoned puppy waited 3 years at the same spot. What happened next will shock you. The rain hammered against the cracked pavement as commuters rushed past the old bus stop on Maple Street, their umbrellas shielding them from both the storm and the heartbreaking sight they'd grown accustomed to ignoring. There, huddled beneath a rusted bench, sat a golden retriever mix with eyes that held 3 years' worth of hope and heartbreak. His name was Charlie, though most people who passed him daily didn't know that. They didn't know his story. They didn't know that every single day for over 1,000 days he had waited in that exact spot, believing with unwavering faith that his family would return for him. It all began on a sunny Tuesday morning in September 2019. 8-year-old Charlie had been the beloved companion of the Thompson family for 6 wonderful years. He'd grown up with their twin boys, celebrated birthdays, survived thunderstorms curled up in their beds, and learned to catch frisbees in their backyard. The Thompsons had adopted Charlie as a puppy from a local shelter, promising him forever. But as life often shows us, forever doesn't always mean what we think it does. When Mr. Thompson lost his job at the manufacturing plant, the family's world began to crumble. Bills piled up like autumn leaves, and difficult decisions loomed ahead. The family had to move across the country to live with relatives, but the small apartment they'd be staying in had a strict no pets policy. In their desperation and heartbreak, the Thompsons made a decision that would haunt them for years to come. They drove Charlie to what they thought was a temporary solution. They left him at the bus stop near their old neighborhood, telling themselves someone would find him and give him a good home. They never intended for it to be permanent. They thought it would just be for a few weeks until they could figure something out. But weeks turned into months, and the Thompsons, struggling with their own survival in a new city, convinced themselves that Charlie must have found a new family by now. They couldn't bear to call the local shelters to check. The guilt was too overwhelming. So they buried it deep and tried to move forward with their lives. Charlie, however, had no way of understanding human complexities like job loss or housing restrictions. All he knew was that his family had brought him to this spot and told him to wait. So he waited. Local shop owners began to notice the loyal dog who never strayed more than 50 feet from the bus stop. Sarah, who ran the corner bakery, started leaving scraps of food for him. Tom from the hardware store built him a small shelter from cardboard boxes that Charlie politely used but never fully trusted, always keeping one eye on the street. As seasons changed, so did Charlie's appearance. His golden coat became matted and dirty. His ribs began to show through his fur. But his spirit remained unbroken, and his vigil continued. Concerned citizens called animal control multiple times, but Charlie was too smart and too quick. Every time officers approached, he would dart just out of reach, circling back to his post once they left. He'd learned that humans in uniforms meant capture, and capture meant being taken away from the place where his family would look for him. The local community slowly began to rally around Charlie. A Facebook group called Charlie's Angels formed, with over 3,000 members sharing updates about his condition and organizing food drops. Local veterinarian Dr. Jennifer Chen would sneak out during her lunch breaks to check on him from a distance, noting that despite his circumstances, he maintained remarkable health through sheer determination and the kindness of strangers. Children walking to school would wave to Charlie, and he'd wag his tail in response, but he never approached them. He had a job to do, and that job was waiting. Even during the harsh winter of 2021, when temperatures dropped below freezing and snow piled 3 feet high, Charlie remained at his post. The community erected a more substantial shelter around him, complete with warm blankets and a steady supply of food, but still, no one could convince him to leave. Then came the day that changed everything. It was a crisp morning in October 2022, exactly 3 years and 1 month after Charlie had been left at the bus stop. A news crew from Channel 7 had come to do a human interest story about the faithful dog who'd captured the city's heart. Reporter Linda Park was interviewing Sarah from the bakery when her phone buzzed with a call from the station. "Linda, you're not going to believe this," her producer said, breathless with excitement. "We just got a call from a family in Denver. They saw our story preview on social media. They think that's their dog. They're driving here right now." The Thompsons had stumbled across the story while scrolling through Facebook. Mrs. Thompson had screamed when she saw Charlie's photo. The family had been living with crushing guilt for 3 years, having convinced themselves that Charlie had surely been adopted by a loving family. Seeing him still waiting, still hoping, broke their hearts completely. They'd spent every penny they had on gas money to make the 18-hour drive back to their old town. Mr. Thompson had found steady work in Denver, and they'd finally saved enough to rent a pet-friendly apartment. They'd been planning to get another dog, but as their car pulled up to the bus stop, Charlie's head lifted with the alertness he'd maintained for over 1,000 days. But this time was different. This time, his entire body began to shake. His tail started wagging so hard, his whole body wiggled. He'd recognized the sound of their engine before he'd even seen their faces. 8-year-old Tyler Thompson opened the car door and called out, "Charlie! We're so sorry, boy! We came back for you!" Charlie launched himself into the boy's arms with such force that they both tumbled to the ground, Charlie covering Tyler's face with 3 years' worth of saved-up kisses. The reunion was nothing short of magical. Charlie's joy was infectious, and there wasn't a dry eye among the crowd that had gathered. Even the news crew was crying. Mrs. Thompson knelt on the wet pavement, burying her face in Charlie's matted fur, sobbing apologies over and over again. "We never stopped loving you," she whispered. "We just didn't know what else to do." Dr. Chen appeared with her medical bag, giving Charlie a quick examination right there on the street. "He's underweight and needs a good grooming," she announced to the cheering crowd. "But this dog is remarkably healthy. Love kept him alive." The Thompsons loaded Charlie into their car, but not before he did something that made everyone's heart swell. He walked back to his spot under the bus stop bench, picked up a ragged tennis ball that had been his only possession for 3 years, and carried it to the car. He was ready to go home now. 6 months later, Charlie was living his best life in Denver. The Thompsons had started a blog documenting his recovery and their renewed bond. Charlie had gained back his healthy weight, his coat was glossy again, and most importantly, his trust in humans had been restored. They'd learned that love isn't just about the good times. It's about fighting for each other, even when things get impossibly hard. The bus stop on Maple Street now has a small plaque that reads, "In honor of Charlie, who taught us that hope, faith, and unconditional love can overcome anything." The community still talks about the miracle dog who waited 3 years for his family to remember that some promises are worth keeping, no matter how difficult life becomes. Charlie's story reminds us that justice isn't always about punishment. Sometimes It's about second chances, forgiveness, and the incredible power of never giving up on love. His family had made a mistake born of desperation, but they'd made it right. And Charlie, in his infinite capacity for forgiveness, welcomed them back with open paws and an open heart. If this story touched your heart, please give it a like and subscribe to our channel for more incredible true stories about the amazing animals who share our world and teach us what it truly means to love unconditionally.